So today's lesson is called writing equations in slope-intercept form. So let's just refresh our memory. What is slope-intercept form? Thank you. Y equals mx plus b is definitely slope-intercept form. What does the m stand for? The m is the slope, right? And what does the b stand for? The y-intercept. Now, we learned how to graph something in slope-intercept form. Now, I'm going to ask you to write the equations. So I might give you a graph and ask you to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Or I might give you some information and ask you to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Now, we learned yesterday how to find the slope if I give you two ordered pairs. That is different than slope-intercept form. What is it called? What did we use yesterday to find the slope of two ordered line given two ordered pairs? It was the name of the entire lesson yesterday. I heard someone say it. It's the slope formula. So the slope formula, what is the slope formula? M equals, which means slope, y2 minus y1 in the numerator over x2 minus x1 in the denominator. That's not the same as slope-intercept form. They have very similar names. Slope-intercept form is an equation that tells you the slope and the y-intercept. Slope formula is a formula we use to find the slope if we're given two ordered pairs. But again, their names are very similar. We're going to need the slope formula today to be able to write these equations. All right. So we're going to go to the really easy questions first. If I give you the slope and I give you the y-intercept, I tell you the slope is a number and the y-intercept is a number, you have all the information you need to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So for example, if you look at example A, it says the slope is what? -3. Oops. And the y-intercept is 1/2. So if I want to write an equation in slope-intercept form, what is slope-intercept form again, just to clarify? Y equals mx plus b. We need to replace m with the slope and b with the y-intercept. So there's no math involved. If they tell you the slope and they tell you the y-intercept, you just replace m with what it tells you the slope is and b with what they tell you the y-intercept is. So I'm going to write y equals, what's going to go in the m spot here? -3. Don't forget the x. And then what's going to go in the b spot? What do I write though? Do I just write 1/2? It's positive 1/2, so I'm going to put a plus sign. If it was a negative 1/2, I'd put a minus sign. You'll see I leave the y and the x are still y and x, right? So if you look at this second one, the slope is 0, the y-intercept is -2. If I put a 0 where it says m for the slope, and I put a -2 where it says the y-intercept, would that be the correct way to write that? Why is that technically not the best way to write that? What is 0 times x going to give you? 0. Do you need to write 0x? No. A better way to write this, 0x is 0. So y is equal to what? -2. Just -2. This part would technically cancel out. So if the slope is 0, it's just y equals a number. What kind of line is y equals a number? Horizontal. Vertical is x equals a number. So y equals -2 would be a horizontal line at -2. All right, it is the next part. Instead of doing it like I was doing it before, where we go through all the notes and then I do stuff on your own at the end, I'm going to have you do the your turn after each type of question. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to work on the your turn here for numbers 1 and 2, and then we're going to continue. So I'll give you about a minute because there's not much to do on these questions. All right, so if I'm writing an equation in slope-intercept form, and they tell me the slope and they tell me the y-intercept, it doesn't get any easier than that, right? I replace the m with 7 and the b with +2. So your equation would be y equals 7x plus 2. If you put the 2 in front of the x and the 7 at the end, that's incorrect. You're then mixing up the slope and the y-intercept. On number 2, the slope is 1/3, so y equals 1/3 x, and the y-intercept is -1, so -1. Okay? Again, those are very simple, easy questions. It gets more difficult when you have to do some work. So I'm not giving you the slope and the y-intercept on these type of questions. I'm giving you a graph. Now, you could tell that these are linear functions. How do you know both of these are linear functions?
Because they both pass through.
It's not that they both pass through y.
Through a line.
They're both a line, right? The fact that they're both lines make them linear functions. We'll learn later on about functions that don't create lines. They create other shapes. But if it creates a line, it's a linear function. So, if I want to write an equation in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, what two pieces of information do you need to have to be able to write an equation in slope-intercept form? The slope, which is the m, and the y-intercept, which is the b. Now, if we look at a graph, what piece of information do you know right away without doing any work from a graph? The m or the b? The b. You're going to have to figure out the m, but the b, isn't the b going to be the y-intercept, meaning where does the line cross the y-axis? Where is it crossing the y-axis here? Well, I just need the number, not the 0 part. It's crossing at -3, right? So my y-intercept for part A is -3. Now the slope, we actually have to do some work. How do we find the slope if you're given a graph? Rise over run. So we'll use these 2 points, and we're going to calculate the rise over the run. How much is it rising? Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it went up. So +6, and it's running 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right, which is positive. Does 6 over 4 simplify? Yes. What can I simplify 6 over 4 to?
3 over 2.
3 halves, 3 over 2. So now that I know the slope is 3 over 2 and the y-intercept is -3, my final equation would say what? Y equals 3 over 2x minus 3. That would be the equation in slope-intercept form. Right? I found the slope. Up 6 over 4, and I simplified it. Let's look at the next one. Right away, the y-intercept, that's the first piece of information I could figure out. What is the y-intercept in this question? The y-intercept, where is it crossing the y-axis? I heard some people mumbling it, but where does it cross the y-axis? At +2, right? So my y-intercept is 2. The slope, on the other hand, I'm going to have to do the rise over the run. So let's use 2 perfect points, which in this case they gave us 2 perfect points. How much does it rise? 3, which is positive because it went up. How much does it run? 4, and it went to the left, which is what? Negative. What is a positive divided by a negative? So my slope is -3/4. So when I go to write the equation, I'm going to write y equals -3/4 x, and the 2 is positive, so +2. That would be my equation in slope-intercept form here. All right, here's your turn. I want you to try these two. Write an equation in slope-intercept form of both of these lines. All right, so the first one, you just said it, but you are correct. So the y-intercept, if you're given a graph, the y-intercept is pretty obvious because you can see where it's crossing the y-axis. So in this case, it's at +1. The slope of the first one, I'm going to calculate the rise over the run. So it's going up 2, which is positive. Where am I going to write that? Let's write that here. And it's running 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right, which is also positive, and 2/4 simplifies to 1/2. So my slope is +1/2, my y-intercept is +1, so my equation would be y equals 1/2 x plus 1. So that one is correct. The second one, my y-intercept is at -1, correct? My slope, on the other hand, you could see from the top point to the bottom point, it's going down 2, which is negative, right? And it's moving to the right 5, which is positive, and a negative divided by a positive means the slope is negative 2/5. So my equation would be y equals negative 2/5 x minus 1. Okay? Everything we've done so far has been pretty simple. These type of questions is where it gets challenging. Okay? This is where that slope formula that we learned yesterday is going to come into play. And I'm just going to give you a fair warning that this gets a little bit challenging. All right? So, the first couple questions were super, super simple. They told you the slope. They told you the y-intercept. You just put each number in the correct spot. You were done. No math, right? When they don't give you that information and they give you a graph instead, still easy enough. You look where it crosses the y-axis. That's your y-intercept. You figure out the slope by doing rise over run, and then once you figure out the slope and the y-intercept, you write the equation. The last thing we're going to talk about is what if they don't give you the slope and the y-intercept, and they don't give you a graph. Instead, they give you 2 ordered pairs that are on the line. I don't want you to sit there and graph those 2 ordered pairs. What 2 pieces of information do you absolutely need to write something in slope-intercept form? It literally says it in the name. The slope and the y-intercept. If you don't have both of those, you can't write it in slope-intercept form. Okay? Now, the slope. Didn't we learn the whole lesson yesterday on how to figure out the slope if I give you 2 ordered pairs? We're going to do that first. So we're going to look at part A. We're going to figure out the slope of this line by doing the slope formula. The slope formula, let's refresh our memory. What does the slope formula say? It does not start with x. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This first ordered pair, the negative 3 is your x1. The positive 5 is your y1. 0 is your x2. Negative 1 is your y2. So let's do the math here. So y2 is going to be negative 1 minus y1, which is 5, over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is negative 3. What is negative 1 minus 5 going to give you? Negative 6. And 0 minus negative 3 turns that into a plus. What's 0 plus 3? What is negative 6 divided by positive 3? So negative 2 is the slope here. And this is for this question. I know I wrote it on top of the other one. But the slope is negative 2. Can we all agree on that? That was just doing what we were doing yesterday. The problem is that's still not enough information to figure out, to write this in slope-intercept form. What do we still need to figure out? The y-intercept. This is where it gets challenging. Please make sure you're paying attention. This is the mistakes that I see a lot of times. Do you agree that this is a y value? Do you agree that this is a y value? Does that automatically mean that that's the y-intercept? No. How do you know this is not the y-intercept? How do I know that's not where it would cross the y-axis?
Because y1.
Say it again.
Because y1.
So that doesn't matter if it's y1, yeah?
Because the x is not at 0.
Isn't the y-intercept going to be 0 comma something?
Yeah.
So negative 3 comma 5 is a point on the line, but it's not the y-intercept. So that's not the y-intercept. Now, this isn't always going to happen, but in this question it did. Do you see how this says 0 comma negative 1? Is that the y-intercept? In this case, that is the y-intercept. You didn't have to do any work, so you know the y-intercept is negative 1. That's not going to always happen. I'm going to show you what to do when that doesn't happen. When that doesn't happen, you're going to have to do some math to figure out that y-intercept. So the equation would be y equals, the slope was negative 2. Do not forget the x. I see it all the time where kids will forget to write the x. If you just write negative 2 minus 1, that's not an equation. Negative 2x minus 1 would be your equation, right? On this second one, once again, they gave you 2 ordered pairs. Is one of those ordered pairs the y-intercept here?
Yes.
Yes. Again, that's a coincidence. Let me see if the your turn has that. One of them does, one of them doesn't. The last one on the your turn is going to definitely be more challenging. All right. So I know automatically the y-intercept is what? -5, right? So the only real work we're going to have to do here is figure out the slope by using that slope formula, correct? All right, what's the y2 value here? -5. Minus, what's the y value? Right? So y1 minus y2. x2 is 8 minus x1, which is 0, right? This turns into a plus. What's -5 plus 5? 0. What's 8 minus 0? So I have 0 over 8. What is 0 over 8 going to be? The 0 is in the numerator. If the 0 is in the numerator, right, then that means my slope is 0. If the slope is 0, do I write 0x? No. What do I write? Y equals, which means this was a horizontal line, right? I want you to try number 1 on the your turn. We're going to do number 2 together in a minute, so don't try number 2 because I did not show you how to do number 2 yet on the your turn. So just do number 1 right now. All right. So thankfully, they gave me the y-intercept on this one. What's the y-intercept? -2, because they gave me an ordered pair where the x value is 0. So the b is -2 for sure. The slope, I'm going to have to do some work. I'm going to have to use that slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? So the y2 is 10 minus the y1 is -2. So I have those two negatives next to each other that turn into a plus. Over x2 is 4 minus x1, which is 0. 10 plus 2 is going to give me 12. 4 minus 0 is going to give me 4. And 12 divided by 4 is? So my slope is 3. So my final equation here is y equals 3x minus 2, correct? This is where it gets challenging. We're going to do number 2 together. All right. The first thing you need to decide is that in slope, is there the y-intercept given to you here? No, right? Neither one of these have a 0 in front for the x. So I could figure out the slope by using my slope formula, correct? I'm going to erase some of this so I have room. All right. Actually, I should only erase this part. I shouldn't erase the slope formula. All right. What is the y2 here?
16.
Minus the y1, which is 8, over x2, which is -3, minus x1, which is 5, right? 16 minus 8 is? And -3 minus 5 is? -8. What is 8 divided by -8? So my slope is -1, correct?
Yeah.
Now, this is where, like I keep saying, it's going to get challenging. We now need to find the y-intercept. Neither of those are telling me the y-intercept. Tell me what slope-intercept form says. What part of this equation do I now know? The m. So if I replace the m with a -1, isn't -1 being multiplied to x? Right? When you have an x and a y, that's basically telling you y is equal to, didn't we say many times that your x is independent and your y is dependent on what x is? I want you to think about how many ordered pairs were given to you here. 2. Each ordered pair is made up of an x and a y. So what I could do, I could take either ordered pair. It does not matter. You pick. I would always say pick the one that looks a little easier. I would think that 5, 8 looks a little easier than -3, 16. Would you agree with that? Okay, but you could use the other one. It'll work, but I would make it easier on yourself if possible. So the x is 5, the y is 8, right? What we're going to do is we're going to plug in a 5 where it says x, and we're going to plug in an 8, not to the y-intercept, but into the y. When you do that, you will only have what variable left? The b. Do you then have enough information to solve for that variable b? Yes, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna replace the x with 8, with 5. Isn't that negative 1 being multiplied to it? So I'm gonna replace that with 5. I'm not gonna do any of the math yet. I'm just replacing it with the numbers. The y value we said was 8. So I'm gonna replace y with that number 8. And now I'm gonna solve for b. So what is negative 1 times 5? So I have 8 equals negative 5 plus b. If I want to solve for b, solve an equation, solve for a variable, what do I do to get b by itself now? Since that 5 is negative, I add 5 to get rid of it, right? Add 5 on the other side. What's 8 plus 5? Oops, I almost wrote 12. You're right. So now, do you know what the b value is? Yes. Absolutely. The b value is 13. Do I have enough information to write this in slope-intercept form? Yeah. Y equals what? Negative 1x plus 13. Now, I want to show you something. If it's a negative 1, you could just write negative x. That means negative 1x if you want. If the slope is positive 1, you could just write x. You don't need to put the 1 in front of it, but you do need the negative part, right? Does that make sense?